Welcome to the channel, guys. My name is Jess. So the chop continues for Bitcoin after the recent crash, and the indecisiveness in the market is only growing stronger. Buyers continue to struggle against 115k resistance, and while we've so far managed to prevent a higher time frame correction, how long is this going to last? We're going to dive into the charts today and talk about all the recent price action from Bitcoin and what it means, including the short-term potential reversal that's developing, and otherwise what could lead to a higher time frame correction for Bitcoin if current support is lost, and where exactly that could take us. Let's get into it. As always, before we dive in, make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe to the channel to get regular Bitcoin analysis every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, and sign up to my free Telegram for more regular Bitcoin updates. If you're a trader and you're interested in joining my VIP trading channel, be sure to message me down below on Telegram. VIP gives you exclusive access to my personal trading setups with exact entry points, targets, and stop losses. Alrighty guys, so diving into the charts, we're on a daily time frame here. Let's really quickly talk about the recent price action from Bitcoin before we dive into our analysis. So in our last video on Sunday, a couple days ago, we had just experienced a crash, right? This one right here, taking us below $115,000, this sort of trigger point and sell side liquidity. And we were moving in to retest $112,000 as this crucial level of high time frame support. And we can see exactly why that is on this chart here. It is the prior all-time high, first of all, and being a huge level of resistance here. Finally pushing above it here in July, we triggered a massive move upwards, right? So it is a massive change of character level, and moving back downwards to retest that, we want to hold that to sustain the price action in this upper range of consolidation, as opposed to re-entering this lower range right here. And so from that daily candle close, we can see that Bitcoin managed to do just that, right? We tapped 112, but the close itself managed to retain movement above that, and we didn't close below it. We I guess, sustained that level of support. And over the last couple of days, we've even seen a little bit of a bounce, right? With Bitcoin moving right back up to retest that breakdown level at 115,000. And that is our current most relevant level of resistance on the short time frame as well. Zooming out to the weekly time frame to take a look at the most recent weekly close too, we can see that once again, right, Bitcoin tested $112,000, this prior weekly range high, right? We can see we have two range highs here on the weekly time frame, one at the current all-time high and one at 112, the prior high. And again, we tested and held that on the weekly candle close, despite the fact that Bitcoin formed a bearish engulfing candle. So ultimately, emphasizing just how crucial this $112,000 level is right now on both the high time frame and on the short term. Thus, holding these levels of support so far, we've essentially prevented a large portion of what could have been a much higher time frame and steeper correction for Bitcoin, right? Because at support, there is a potential here that we see a little bit of reversal. And even on the daily time frame, like I've said, we have bounced a little bit to test $115,000. So let's zoom into the short time frame and talk about the potential reversal that is brewing there and what we need to see to make that happen. Now, before we get into any more analysis, guys, let's really quickly touch on one of the most important parts of being a successful trader, and that's managing your trading fees. So BTC has partnered with me to help you guys out and give you 15% off all of your trading fees. So if you'd like to support the channel and you're still really looking for a great non-KYC exchange with lots of listings, high liquidity, and security, BTC is definitely a great one to check out. And as a thank you for signing up under my affiliate code, you can get 10% off your VIP membership if you message me your membership number when you check out your VIP membership. Thanks. Let's get back into the charts. So we're going to dive into a 4-hour time frame to map out the relevant levels that we're talking about here on the short term, because that is essentially what we have to go off. There are very few if any structures going on right now on the short term. The consolidation has been really, really choppy, and in periods of chop also momentum is very difficult to read as well, because momentum is generally a great way to look at the market if you're looking for swing positions or larger moves or large shifts. But when we're in periods of high indecision, lots of chop, and very low volume, momentum is a very difficult thing to read. And the best way to look at the charts and I guess the market moving forward is horizontal levels, right? What is going to be respected as a level of resistance, and what's going to then otherwise trigger a bullish reversal. So on the short time frame here, what we're looking at is a little bit of segmentation from the price action, in that this was our prior range and is now what would become our sort of bullish target territory. We want to re-enter this range for Bitcoin so we can see a retest of $120,000, And in breaking 120,000, of course, move up to retest the all-time high, and that would of course be bullish and moving onwards to potentially be on the all-time high. And otherwise, falling below this range here and sell side liquidity, $115,000, this is when things turned bearish for the market. And so that is our current segment of price action, right? We're in a bearish segment of price action, and in order to move back up into this range, Bitcoin needs to clear $115,000. Until we clear that change of character level, the trigger for this downwards move and flip the price action to being bullish again, we will continue to retest 112K support, right, as we form this lower segment of consolidation, right? So we currently have had one retest of $112,000 and 3 retests of 115K thus far, failing to break above that level. If we do take a look at momentum really quickly, we can see we have a little bit of bearish divergence right here. So we've got slightly lower highs here on the price action. If we take a look at those wicks, right, this wick is slightly higher than this last one, but we have higher highs on the momentum. So despite the fact that we're seeing increasing buying pressure, it still hasn't been enough to push past the sell wall that currently exists at 115K. So the only way I see this sort of developing is we either push above 15, push back into bullish territory, or the continued rejection from $115,000 leads to an eventual retest and breakdown from this level of support at $112,000, and we move into a lower range and potentially risk a higher time frame correction. So really the best mode of action right now is waiting and watching the price action to see either a push above $115,000 at last and a flip of the charts into this bullish territory up here, or a loss of $112,000 triggering a larger and potentially higher time frame correction. So let's talk about that scenario. We've already talked about the way upwards, what that's going to look like and all the levels we have on the way up. Let's talk about the same on the bottom side. So here, just below $112,000, if we zoom out on the 4-hour chart, we can see a prior range of consolidation starting from May all the way up until July this year. And essentially, it started at 110K. We can see repetitive rejections right there, eventually flipping that to support and pushing above 112 is where we sort of trigger that explosive move up to 124. And just below it at the bottom of the range is $100,000 flat. Now, this segment here is where Bitcoin starts to become higher time frame bearish as we risk these large corrections to the base of the range there to test 100K once again. Now, of course, we do have other levels of support before $100,000, starting at $110,000, of course, the top of that channel, and then just below it at 109, and this level here at 106 being the midline of the channel as well, right? We can see sort of above it, we generally move up to retest 110,000, and falling below that midline, we generally went down to retest 100K. So it was sort of that trigger level during that period of consolidation. Now, if we zoom out to the daily chart, we can see confluence for this analysis as well. If we take a look at our dynamic level support at the 50 and 200 EMA, where historically speaking, generally if we fall below the 50, we expect to move down to the 200, right? And the other way around, if we push above the 200, we generally expect to move up to the 50. And here we can see that $112,000 is really that really final level of support sitting around that 50 EMA here, preventing a further breakdown, despite the fact that we've so far lost the 50 EMA there on we briefly lost the 50 EMA there on the daily chart. So once again, if we fall below 112 and we fall below the 50 EMA, we could expect a move if we lose those other levels of support in between down to $100,000 to retest the 200 EMA. Overall, we can see here that the entry into this prior range here with loss of 110 would just be generally very, very high time frame bearish for Bitcoin. Now, of course, as I've continued to say, none of that will happen if we continue to hold $112,000, right? That is the current level of support. As long as we hold that level of support, there is a possibility that we push above $115,000, manage to flip the charts, and, you know, this entire scenario of potentially moving down to 100K is completely negated. But before we wrap up the video, there is one last chart that I want to show you guys in regards to the potential for a high time frame correction, and that is the 3-day chart with the Gaussian channel on it. So let's pull up the Gaussian channel. Oopsies. and take a look. So what we're looking at here, and I've spoken about the Gaussian channel a couple of times. I do use it a couple ways on the 3-day chart, particularly when it comes to marking out the bear market or potential top signals and things like that. But what I specifically want to talk about in the video today, in terms of seeing that further correction, is the way Gaussian channel interacts with the RSI and how you can use that to read a potential high time frame move to, first of all, test the top of the Gaussian channel. So currently that sits at $104.9 thousand or $105,000, the midline, and then the base of the Gaussian channel as well. So if we take a look at 64.09 on the RSI on the 3-day chart and the Gaussian channel, we can see that every single time Bitcoin's RSI has dropped below 64.0, is it 09 or 06? 64.06 on the RSI. We've essentially seen a move within the next high time frame period to, first of all, retest the top of the Gaussian channel as a base of dynamic support, and losing that on the 3-day chart, a movement to the midline and then potentially the base of the Gaussian channel as well. Once again, we can see that over here, pushing above 64 and falling back below it right there. Over the next high time frame period, we moved down to retest the Gaussian channel, the midline, and then the base of the Gaussian channel. Right here as well, at 64.06, we saw a move downwards to retest the Gaussian channel right here. And then currently, in the last couple of days, I think just a few days ago, the prior 3-day candle close pushed us again below 64.06. So if $112,000 is lost, what this chart tells us right here is the likely movement then is a move down to test the top of the Gaussian channel, as well as the 50 EMA here on the 3-day chart, sitting at 105K. So that, on the daily chart, if you guys remember, takes us into that prior range of consolidation, right? It pushes us below $110,000, this range over here, and takes us around this midline level of support. So something to watch out for and keep in mind in the next upcoming segment of price action. Alrighty guys, that is a wrap on today's analysis. Thank you for tuning in for another episode. If you enjoyed it or you learned something, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel to get regular Bitcoin analysis every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And sign up to my free Telegram for more regular Bitcoin updates. If you're a trader and you're interested in joining my VIP trading channel, be sure to message me down below on Telegram. VIP gives you exclusive access to my personal trading setups with exact entry points, targets, and stop losses. And sign up down below to beat you next to get 15% off your trading fees as well. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye!